Viewer discretion is advised. This content is for education and entertainment purposes. Any opinions are the opinion of hosts or guests and not the opinion of employers.
Hey Ousters, thank you so much for joining us for the last episode from season 1 of Oust Now Presents. This is us, and we couldn't finish out this season without the absolute GOAT, Maya Angelou.
Yes. Did I tell you I had the chance to interview her and I totally fumbled over myself? I was a clumsy mess. Very embarrassing moment. But yeah, that's beside the point. I was a hot mess.
Well, I would imagine
Yeah.
with someone like her, it'd be kind of easy to be like, nervous because
Uh,
she
uh,
is
uh,
so esteemed.
yes.
Yeah.
And very poised.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm excited about all of them, but yeah, I think this project itself is very enlightening.
Hmm. And it's pretty, it's different from what we normally do. So I think that's where it's I think it's important. And we're going to pursue it and keep going.
I know that's right.
So even though it's a breakout series um, from our traditional podcast, but I think it's probably one of the more important things that we've done. And I think with each season, it's just going to get better.
So, this episode of This Is Us is about none other than Maya Angelou. And Maya Angelou was born Marguerite Ann Johnson on April 4th, 1928, in St. Louis, Missouri. The younger of two children of Bailey Johnson, a doorman and Navy dietitian, and Vivian Nee Baxter Johnson, a nurse and card dealer. For the first 3 years of her life, her family lived in her maternal grandparents' home. Angelo's older brother, Bailey Jr., nicknamed Marguerite Maya, derived from my or Maya sister. Oh, that's cute.
That is really cute. When Angela was 3 and her brother 4, their parents' marriage ended, and their father sent them to Stamps, Arkansas, alone by train, to live with their paternal grandmother, Annie Henderson. In an astonishing exception to the harsh economics of African Americans of the time, Angelou's grandmother prospered financially during the Great Depression, and World War II because the general store she owned sold basic and needed commodities and because she made wise and honest investments. Hmm.
4 years later, when Angela was 7 and her brother was 8, the children's father came to Stamps without warning and returned them to their mother's care in St. Louis. At the age of 8, while living with her mother, Angela was sexually abused and raped by her mother's boyfriend, a man named Freeman. She told her brother, who told the rest of their family. Freeman was found guilty but was jailed for only 1 day. 4 days after his release, he was murdered, probably by Angelo's uncles. Angelo became mute for almost 5 years, believing she was to blame for his death. And she stated, I thought my voice killed him. I killed that man because I told his name. And then I thought I would never speak again because my voice would kill anyone.
Shortly after Freeman's murder, when Angelo was 8 and her brother 9, Angelou and her brother was sent back to their grandmother. She attended the Lafayette County Training School in Stamps, a Rosenwald school. Angelou credits a teacher and a friend of her family, Miss Bertha Flowers, with helping her speak again, challenging her by saying, "You do not love poetry until you speak it." Flowers introduced her to Charles Dickens, William Shakespeare, Edgar Allan Poe, Georgia Douglas Johnson, and James Weldon Johnson, authors who would affect Angelou's life and career, as well as Black female artists such as Frances Harper, Anne Spencer, and Jessie Fawcett.
When Angela was 14 and her brother 15, she and her brother moved in once again with their mother, whom had since moved to Oakland, California. During World War II, Angelo attended the California Labor School. At the age of 16, she became the first Black female streetcar conductor in San Francisco. She wanted the job badly, admiring the uniform of the operators, describing the women in uniform as having their little money changing belts and with bibs on their caps and well fitted uniforms. So much so that her mother referred to it as her dream job. Her mother encouraged her to pursue the position, but warned her that she would need to arrive early and work harder than others. In 19, God dang, I'm sorry. I'm talking about 19. Why? In 2014, Angelo received a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Conference of Minority Transportation Officials as part of a session billed Women Who Move the Nation. 3 weeks after completing school at the age of 17, she gave birth to her son, Clyde, who later changed his name to Guy Johnson.
In 1951, Angelo married Tosh Angelos, a Greek electrician, former sailor, and aspiring musician, despite the condemnation of interracial relationships at the time and the disapproval of her mother. She took modern dance classes during this time and met dancers and choreographers Alvin Ailey and Ruth Beckford. Ailey and Angelo formed a dance team calling themselves Al and Rita and performed modern dance at fraternal Black organizations throughout San Francisco, but never became successful. Angelo, her new husband, and her son moved to New York City so she could study African dance with Trinidadian dancer Pearl Primus, but they returned to San Francisco a year later.
After Angelo's marriage ended in 1954, she danced professionally in clubs around San Francisco, including the nightclub The Purple Onion, where she sang and danced to calypso music. Up to that point, she went by her name of Margaret Johnson or Rita, but at the strong suggestion of her managers and supporters at the Purple Onion, she changed her professional name to Maya Angelou, her nickname and former married surname. Okay, and former married surname. It was a distinctive name and set her apart and captured the feel of her calypso dance performance. During 1954 and 1955, Maya Angelou toured Europe with a production of the opera Porgy and Bess. She began her practice of learning the language of every country she visited, and in a few years she gained proficiency in several languages. In 1957, writing on the popularity of calypso, Angela recorded her first album, Miss Calypso, which was reused as a CD in 1996. She appeared in an off Broadway review that inspired the 1957 film Calypso Heatwave, in which Angelo sang and performed her own compositions.
Angelou met novelist John Oliver Killens in 1959 and, at his urging, moved to New York to concentrate on her writing career. She joined the Harlem Writers Guild, where she met several major African American authors, including John Henrik Clarke, Rosa Guy, Paul Marshall, and Julian Mayfield, and was published for the first time. In 1960, after meeting civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. and hearing him speak, she and Killens organized the legendary Cabaret for Freedom to benefit the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And she was named SCLC's Northern Conductor. According to scholar Lehman B. Hagan, her contributions to civil rights as a fundraiser and SCLC organizer was successful and eminently effective. Angelou also began her pro Castro and anti apartheid activism during this time, joining the Fair Play for Cuba Committee. She had joined the crowd cheering for Fidel Castro when he first entered the Hotel Teresa in Harlem, New York, during the United Nations 15th General Assembly on September 19th, 1960.
In 1961, she met South African freedom writer Vasumzi Make. They never officially married. She and her son Guy moved with Make to Cairo, where Angela worked as an associate editor at the weekly English language newspaper, The Arab Observer. In 1962, her relationship with Make ended, and she and Guy moved to Accra, Ghana. So he would attend college, but he was seriously injured in an automobile accident. Angelo remained in Accra for his recovery and ended up staying there until 1965. She became an administrator at the University of Ghana and was active in the African American expatriate community. She was a feature editor for the African Review and freelance writer for the Ghanaian Times, wrote and broadcasted for Radio Ghana, and worked and performed for Ghana's National Theatre. She performed in a revival of the Blacks in Geneva and Berlin.
I'm assuming that's some sort of play, right?
I hope
Hmm.
so.
In Accra, she became close friends with Malcolm X during his visit in the 1960s. Angelou returned to the US in 1965 to help him build a new civil rights organization, the Organization of Afro American Unity. He was assassinated shortly after. Devastated and adrift, she joined her brother in Hawaii, where she resumed her singing career. She moved back to Los Angeles to focus on her writing career. Working as a market researcher in Watts, Angela witnessed the riots in the summer of 1965. She acted in and wrote plays and returned to New York in 1967. She met her lifelong friend Rosa Guy and renewed her friendship with James Baldwin, whom she had met in Paris in the 1950s and called him my brother during this time. Her friend, Jerry Purcell, provided Angela with a stipend to support her writing.
In 1968, Martin Luther King Jr. asked Angelo to organize a march. She agreed, but postponed again, and in what Gillespie calls a a macabre twist of fate. He was assassinated on her 40th birthday, April 4th. Devastated again, she was encouraged out of her depression by her friend James Baldwin. As Gillespie states, if 1968 was a year of great pain, loss, and sadness, it was also the year when America first witnessed witnessed the breadth and depth of Maya Angelou's spirit and creative genius. Despite having almost no experience, she wrote, produced, and narrated Black's Blues Black, a 10-part series of documentaries about the connections between blues music and Black Americans' African heritage, and what Angelo called Africanisms still current in the U.S. for national educational television. The precursor of PBS, also in 1968, inspired a dinner party she attended with Baldwin, cartoonist Jules Pfeiffer, and his wife Judy, and challenged by Random House editor Robert Loomis. She wrote her first autobiography, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, published in 1969. This brought her international recognition and acclaims.
Released in 1972, Angelou's Georgia, Georgia, produced by a Swedish film company and filmed in Sweden, was the first produced screenplay by a Black woman. She also wrote the film's soundtrack despite having very little additional input in the filming of the movie. Angelou married Paul de Fuy, a Welsh carpenter and ex-husband of writer Germaine Greer, in San Francisco in 1973. Over the next 10 years, as Gillespie had stated, Angelou had accomplished more than many artists hoped to achieve in a lifetime. Angelou worked as a composer, writer for singer Roberta Flack, and composing movie scores. She wrote articles, short stories, TV scripts, documentaries, autobiographies, and poetry. She produced plays and was named a visiting professor at several colleges and universities. She was a reluctant actor and was nominated for a Tony Award in 1973 for her role in Jerome Kilty's play Look Away. As a theater director in 1988, she undertook a revival of Errol John's play Moon on a Rainbow Shawl at the Almeida Theatre in London.
She returned to southern United States in 1981 because she felt she had to come to terms with her past there, and despite having no bachelor's degree, accepted the lifetime Reynolds professorship Reynolds Professorship of American Studies at Wake Forest University in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, where she was one of a few full-time African American professors. From that point on, she considered herself a teacher who writes. Angelo taught a variety of subjects that reflected her interests, including philosophy, ethics, theology, science, theater, and writing. The Winston-Salem Journal reported that even though she made many friends on campus, she never quite lived down all of the criticism from people who thought she was more of a celebrity than an intellect and an overpaid figurehead. That was me. The last course she taught at Wake Forest was 2011, but she was planning to teach another course in late 2020 2014. Her final speaking engagement at the university was in the late 2013. Beginning in the 1990s, Angelo actively participated in the lecture circuit in the customizing tour bus, something she continued into her 80s. She also taught at the University of California and the University of Kansas and the University of Ghana and was recognized as a Rockefeller Foundation Scholar and a Yale University Fellow. Girl, shit.
She's done a lot that many of us I probably
Proud. No,
don't
wait,
know.
before.
Um, in 1993, Angelou recited her poem On the Pulse of Morning at the presidential inauguration of Bill Clinton, becoming the first poet to make an inaugural recitation since Robert Frost at John F. Kennedy's inauguration in 1961. Her recitation resulted in more fame and recognition for her previous works and broadened her appeal across racial, economic, and educational boundaries. The recording of the poem won a Grammy Award. In June 1995, she delivered what Richard Long called her second public poem entitled A Brave and Startling Truth, which commemorated the 50th anniversary of the United Nations.
Angelo campaigned for the Democratic Party in the 2008 presidential primaries, giving her public support to Hillary Clinton. In the run up to the January Democratic primary in South Carolina, the Clinton campaign ran ads features Angel sorry. The Clinton campaign ran ads featuring Angelo's endorsement. The ads were part of the campaign efforts to rally support in the Black community, but Barack Obama won the South Carolina primary, finishing 29 points ahead of Clinton and taking 80% of the Black vote. When Clinton campaign ended, Angelo put her support behind Obama, who went on to win the presidential election and became the first African American president of the United States. After Obama's inauguration, she stated, "We are growing up beyond the idiocies of racism and sexism." Girl, are we? I'm sorry.
Feels like we've taken 100
Sorry.
steps back, yo. Um,
Girl.
now, I was going to play the speech that won her the Tony, but I was like, it was only like a 7 minute. So I thought maybe I found something different.
Okay. I trust you.
Her voice is very distinct. So I just thought this would be more powerful.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Yes, 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 yes.
Oh, yes. I've seen this one. Okay.
Right?
Bitter men, bitter men, bitter men, get 'em in. Look where he brought me from. Bitter men, get 'em in, bitter men. The sun is hot and mighty bright. Let's get down to business, get home tonight. Bitter men. Bitter men, bitter men, bitter men. Auctioning slaves is a real high art. Bring that young gal out here, Roy. She's good for a start. And bitter men, get 'em in, bitter men. Now here's a real good bite, about 15. Her great-grandmammy was a die-homey queen. Look at her, she sure ain't homely. Like sheep in the Bible, she's black but comely. Bitter men, get 'em in, bitter men. Look where he brought us from. Oh. Hey. 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 I'm gonna start at 3. Can I hear 3? Step up, gents. Take a good look see. I know you'll want her once you see her. She's young and ripe and make a damn good breeder. Bid 'em in, get 'em in, bid 'em in. Look where he brought us. She's good in the field. She can sew and cook. Strip her down, Roy. Let the gentleman look. She's full up front. She's ample behind. Examine her teeth if you got a mind. Look, look. Here's a bid of 3 from a man who's thrifty. 325, can I hear 350? Your money ain't earning you much in the banks. Turn around, Roy, let him look at a flank. Bid 'em in, get 'em in, bid 'em in. Look, look. 350 is the bid, I'm looking for 4. I hear 4, 400, she's a bargain show. 4 is the bid, 455. Now look alive. Bid 'em in, get 'em in, bid 'em in. Don't mind the tears. That's one of her tricks. Turn around, boy. Can I please hear 6? She's healthy and strong. She's well equipped. Make a good lady's maid when she's properly whipped. Bid 'em in, get 'em in, bid 'em in. At 7, I'm gonna let her go. 7, 7, 7. She's gone. Strip her down, Roy, and bring the next one on. Bid 'em in, get 'em in. Look where he brought us from. Hey, hey. Oh. Miss Rosie, when I see you, you brown bag of a woman, wrapped up in your mind like last week's grocery list. I say, Miss Rosie, when I see you, sitting in your old man's shoes with the big toe cut out. When I see you, Miss Rosie, who used to be the prettiest gal in Georgia, used to be called Georgia Rose. I say, when I see you, Miss Rosie, I stand up. Because through your life and even your destruction, it is given to me to stand up. Ladies, sisters, my daughters, I'm delighted to be here. Delighted. I was so pleased when I spoke to the choir mistress and she said yes, she would sing this song. They would try to find it. And my Lord, did they sing it. My Lord. And when your president called me and said, girlfriend, I said, how high do you want me to jump, Janetta? Just tell me how high and when. Because I belong to you. You are mine. You are absolutely mine. I have given birth to each one of you because I have dreamed you. I have loved you. As your parents and your aunts and your uncles and your fathers and all your teachers have loved you, you are created. We have invented you because we have stayed alive somehow, miraculously. People live in direct relation to the heroes and sheroes they have, always and in all ways. And it is imperative that you see yourselves as having been loved and are loved now. It is imperative that you do so. You are cared for. You know that the first Africans were brought to this country in 1619. I don't mean to cast aspersions on my white brothers and sisters who may or may not be in the audience, but that was, I'm not signifying either, that was 1 year before the Mayflower docked. Hello? Hello? We have undergone experiences too bizarre to be included in Mr. Alex Haley's phenomenon, the book Roots, or in the television phenomenon Roots. And yet here we are. Did you know that in 1870 and 80, there were statements made in Southern legislatures that by 1920, all blacks would be dead or gone? Here we are, upwards of 40 million, and that's a conservative estimate. Because I know people who swear there are more than 40 million black people in the Baptist church. Hey, that's it. That's right. They're not even counting backsliders, AME, CME, and the 3 black atheists in the world. Here we are, and you are born right out of their heads, right out of their hearts. They have loved you. You see, you have already been paid for. Isn't that amazing? Already. You do not have to pay for yourselves. We have paid for you. All those men and women who went before you have paid for you already. And young men and women, young women who are just starting into Spelman, you have been paid for. The reason you study, the reason you do the best you can, the reason you stand always as black queens with something of the, as Gwendolyn Bennett says, something of your queenly nature in your walk, remembering something of the sweet poignancy of your slave history in your voice. That is your history too. The reason you do so is so that you can prepare yourself, as Dr. Brown said, to pay for someone who is yet to come. That is the only, you have already been paid for because you have been loved. Now, I'm sorry to say, when a number of non-black people write about black people and romantic love, because they are so erroneously informed, they would have us believe that white people make love and black people just have sex. However, look at the love in the literature, in the lore. This is a shred from a 19th century folk song in which a black man spoke of the woman he loved. He said, "The woman I love is fat and chocolate to the bone. And every time she shakes, some skinny woman loses her home." Hey, that's it. That's it. Hello. Yes, yes. And a shred again, 19th century folk song in which a black woman spoke of the man she loved. This shred found its way into Mr. W.C. Handy's 20th century blues. The black woman sang, "He's blacker than midnight, teeth like flags of truce. He's the finest thing in the whole St. Louis. They say the blacker the berry." Sweeter is the juice. That's romantic love. But just a couple of romantic love poetry before I get to the self-love, which I really want you to realize, to have with you before, as you take this, your diploma and your hugs and kisses from your beloveds. Have this too. But before I go to self-love, listen. Here's a romantic love poem of my favorite poet. Of course, I'm fickle, so she's my favorite right now. In another 10 minutes, I'll have somebody else. But Miss Georgia Douglas Johnson, 19th century black lady poet. She wrote, "I want to die while you love me, while yet you hold me fair, while laughter lies upon my lips and lights are in my hair." Yes. I want to die while you love me. Who would care to live till love had nothing more to ask and nothing more to give? No, I want to die while you love me and bear to that still bed your kisses, turbulent, unspent, to warm me while I'm dead. Now that's lyrical poetry, ladies. That's the poetry that is in your hearts, and that's the lyricism which is in your speech. It is all yours. You have earned it. But before that, you had it before you earned it, because it is your inheritance. Now, I believe that self-love is very important. If you read my work, you know I'm always talking about loving oneself. I never trust anybody who tells me he or she loves me if the person doesn't love herself or himself. There's an African saying which is, "Be careful when a naked person offers you a shirt. I mean, if he had something, he'd cover himself first, right? So I like to look at self-love. It is very important that it comes from within, that you have a sense of yourself, so that when you walk into an office, you don't go alone. Bring your people with you. Bring everybody who has loved you with you. Say, Grandma, come on, let's go. Great-grandpa, you've been dead all this time. Come on, let's go. I have to go in here and have an interview. Come on, Auntie. Come on, my friends. Come, let's go. And when you walk in, people don't know what it is about you. They can't take their eyes off you. You may not be cute in the given sense. You may not be fashion model size in that particular sense. You may not be any of those things, but they can't take their eyes off you. And they say of you, in this incredible way, which I don't understand, they say, I don't know, but she has charisma. No, what you have is all those people around you. So think of that. Anytime you have anything to do, bring everybody with you that you can remember who has loved you. And then you have that sense of having been paid for. And when you walk in, people will say, now, I think you're overqualified. Yes, you will have that, but you'd have that anyway, I'm sorry to say. So let us look at self-love. I wrote a little poem for a woman who works in a factory. And on the face of it, you wouldn't think she had much going for her. But the poem is called Weak in Glory. She said, some dicty folks don't know the facts, posing and preening and putting on acts, stretching their necks and straining their backs. They move into condos up over the ranks. They lend their souls to the local banks. They buy big cars they can't afford, then ride around town acting bored. My job at the plant ain't the biggest bet, but I pay my bills and stay out of debt. I get my hair done for my own self's sake, so I don't have to pick and I don't have to rake. I take the church money out and then I head across town to my friend girl's house where we plan our round. We meet our men and go to a joint where the music is blues and to the point. Folks talk about me, they just can't see how I work all week at the factory, then get spruced up and laugh and dance and turn away from worry with a sassy glance. They accuse me of living from day to day. Who are they kidding? So are they. My life ain't heaven, but it sure ain't hell. I'm not on top, but I call it swell if I'm able to work and get paid right and have the luck to be black on a Saturday night. Hey! That's it. That's it. You know, I want to tell you something else about love. You know that black people historically, for centuries, have laughed when they weren't tickled and scratched when they didn't itch. And those gestures have come down to us as Uncle Tommy and Aunt Jemima-ing. Young women, I don't think we often enough stop to wonder how that black woman in the 19th century, how she felt. Every time she said, no ma'am, Miss Ann, you didn't slap me when you hurt me, I ain't tender-hearted. So she could make enough money so she could send somebody to Spelman. Or that black man who said, no sir, you ain't wrong, I sure must be stupid. So he could make enough money so he could send somebody to Morehouse, or Morris Brown, or Shaw, or Tuskegee, or Hampton Institute at the time, or Fisk. I don't think we often enough stop to wonder. I think they were successful in the employment of those humiliating ploys, or you wouldn't be here for me to talk to, and I wouldn't be here to talk to you. So we have to look where he's brought us from. Look. There's a poem by Paul Laurence Dunbar called Masks. I use it with a poem of my own, which I wrote for a black woman who's a maid in New York City, and a poem for old men on, it's a triptych. Now, this woman used to ride on the bus, and if somebody missed the bus, she'd laugh. If someone caught the bus, she'd laugh. She'd laugh until I looked at her and I thought, you know, if you don't know black features, you really would think she's laughing. She wasn't laughing. She was simply extending her lips and making a sound. So I wrote a poem for her. Ladies, this is love, howbeit brooding, howbeit painful. When I think about myself, I almost laugh myself to death. My life has been one great big joke, a dance that's walked, a song was spoke. I laugh so hard, I nearly choke when I think about myself. 70 years in these folks' world, the child I works for calls me girl. And I say, yes, ma'am, for working's sake. I'm too proud to bend, too poor to break. So I laugh until my stomach aches when I think about myself. And my folks can make me split my side. I laughed so hard I nearly died. The tales they tell sound just like lying. They grow the fruit, but eat the rind. I laugh until I start to cry when I think about myself and my folks and the little children. But then we wear the mask that grins and lies. It shades our cheeks and hides our eyes. This debt we pay to human guile. With torn and bleeding hearts, we smile and mouth myriad subtleties. Why should the world be overwise in counting all our tears and sighs? Nay, let them only see us while we wear the mask. We smile, but oh my God, our tears to thee from tortured souls arise, and we sing, but oh, the clay is vile beneath our feet, and long the mile, but let the world think otherwise. We wear the mask. Look where we've all come from. Now, I know the thing most wanted in the world is a brief but pithy commencement speech. This is your day. But this last poem is for all our grandmothers, all of them, the great-grandmothers, the great-greats, and great-great-greats. She lay skin down on the moist dirt. Now, my grandmother, I'm sorry to say, has been dead 30 years, and Mama could sing, but when you ask Mama to sing outside of the church, Mama would say, "Sister, go on, you know Mama can't sing." But when she sang in the church, women would wind up their purses and throw them at the preacher. But if you left her alone at home, she would sing, I shall not be removed. So I would write, I couldn't speak at the time. I would write, Mama, it is not removed. My grandmother would put on her glasses. She'd say, yes, Sister Mama, no. I shall not be removed. She lay skin down on the moist dirt, the canebrake rustling with the whispers of leaves and loud longing of hounds and the crackling of hunters in near branches. She muttered, lifting her head a nod toward freedom, and said, I shall not be removed. She gathered her babies, their tears slick as oil on black faces, their young eyes canvassing mornings of madness. Mama, is Master gonna sell you from us tomorrow? Yes. Unless you keep walking more and talking less. Yes. Unless the keeper of our lives releases me from all commandments. Yes. And your lives, never mine to live, will be executed on the killing floor of innocence. Unless you match my heart and words, say with me, I shall not be moved. In Virginia tobacco fields, In the red hills of Georgia, into the palms of her chained hands, she cried against calamity, saying, "You have tried to destroy me, and although I perish daily, I shall not be moved." Her universe, summarized into one black body falling finally from the tree to her feet, made her cry each time in a new voice, "All my past hastens to defeat. Strangers claim the glory of my love. Iniquity has bound me to his bed. Still, I shall not be moved." She heard the names, swirling ribbons in the winds of history: nigger, bitch, heifer, mammy, property, creature, ape, baboon, hot tail, thing, it. She said, "My description cannot fit your tongue, for I have a certain way of being in this world, and I shall not be moved." No angel stretched protecting wings above the heads of her children, fluttering and urging winds of reason into the confusion of their lives. They sprouted like young weeds. She could not shield their growth from the grinding blades of ignorance, nor shape them into symbolic topiaries. She sent them away, overground, underground, in coaches, barefoot. She said, "When you learn, teach. When you get, give. As for me, I shall not be moved." She stood in mid-ocean, seeking dry land, searching God's face. Assured, she placed her fire of service on the altar, and although clothed in the finery of faith and Semite, when she appeared at the temple door, no sign welcomed black grandmothers into here. Into the crashing sound, into the wickedness, she said, "No one, nor no 1,000,000 ones dare to deny me God. I enter as one and 1,000. The divine upon my right impels me to pull forever at the latch of freedom's gate." These mama and grandmama and great-grandmama faces, lemon yellow, plum purple, honey brown, have grimaced and twisted down pyramids of years. She stands today before the abortion clinic, confounded by lack of choice, in the welfare line, reduced to the pity of handouts, ordained in the pulpit, shielded by the mysteries, in operating rooms, husbanding life, in the choir loft, holding God in her throat, on lonely street corners, hawking her body, in classrooms, loving children to understanding. Centered on the world stage, she sings to her loves and beloveds, to her foes and detractors. "However I am perceived or deceived, however my ignorance or conceits, lay aside your fears that I will be undone, for I shall not be moved. Look where we've all come from." Thank you.
Angelou wrote a total of 7 autobiographies. According to the scholar Mary Jane Lupton, Angelou's third autobiography, Singing and Swinging and Getting Married Like Christmas, marked the first time a well-known African-American autobiographer had written a third volume about her life. Her books stretched over time and place, from Arkansas to Africa and back to the US, and take place from the beginnings of World War II to the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. In her fifth autobiography, All God's Children Need Traveling Shoes, in 1968, Angelou tells about her return to Ghana, searching for the past of her tribe.
She published her seventh autobiography, Mom and Me and Mom, in 2013 at the age of 85. Critics have tended to judge Angelou's subsequent autobiographies in light of the first, with Caged Birds received the highest praise. Angela wrote 5 collections of essays, which writer Hilton Als called her wisdom books, and homilies strung together with autobiographical texts. Angela used the same editor throughout her writing career, Robert Loomis, an executive editor at Random House. He retired in 2011 and has been called one of the Publishing Hall's of Fame editors. Angelo said regarding Loomis, "We have a relationship that's kind of famous among publishers."
When I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings was published in 1969, Angela was hailed as a new kind of memorist, one of the first African American women who were able to publicly discuss their lives. According to scholar Hilton Als, up to that point, Black female writers were marginalized to the point that they were unable to present themselves as central characters in the literature they wrote. Linguist John McWhorter agreed, seeing Angelou's works where he called tracts as apologetic writing. He placed Angelou in the tradition of African American literature as a defense of Black culture, which he called a literary manifestation of the imperative that reigned in the Black scholarship of the period. Writer Julian Mayfield, who called Caged Bird a work of art that eludes description, argued that Angelou's autobiography set a precedence for not only other Black women writers, but also African American autobiography as a whole. Owls said that Caged Bird marked one of the first times that a Black autobiographer could, as he put it, write about Blackness from the inside without apology or defense. Through the writing of her autobiography, Angela became recognized and highly respected as a spokesperson for Blacks and women. It made her, without a doubt, America's most visible Black woman autobiographer and a major autobiographical voice of the time. As writer Gary Young said, probably more than almost any other writer alive, Angelou's life literally is her work.
Al said that Cage Bird helped increase Black feminist writing in the 1970s, less through its originality than its resonance in the prevailing climate or the time in which it was written. At the end of the American Civil Rights Movement, all Owls, not also, okay. Owls also claim that Angelo's writing more interest in self revelation than in politics or feminism, have freed other female writers to open themselves up without shame to the eyes of the world. Angelo's critics, Joanne M. Braxton, states that Cage Birds was perhaps the most aesthetically pleasing autobiography written by an African American woman in its era. Angelo's poetry has influenced the modern hip hop music community, including artists such as Common, Tupac Shakur, Nicki Minaj, and Kanye West. What's crazy is that all of them, except for um, Cajun over there, I love all of them. Common, Tupac, Nicki, all of them.
Agreed. I'm not too much into Common, funny enough, and I've listened to enough hip hop, but I don't know a lot of his work.
I like
Interesting.
Common. I like Tupac. Honestly, when I think about it, a lot of Common's stuff, I think he has been like, or maybe I'm wrong, but I usually remember him being on other people's shit, right? Or is
Oh,
it just me?
I'm not in tune with him, and I don't know why. Strangely enough, maybe I don't know.
Girl, that man is 53.
Is he?
He is. And
Mm.
he look good to be 53 though. That's that black
Okay.
don't crack. That's that black that don't crack.
But it's interesting how her poetry can influence a generation. I think more than just, or a few generations, more than just like these artists here.
Mhm.
Um, Like I would say, well, I don't remember reading the whole book. I know I read the book, and it's her, and I know why the cage bird sings, and then the color purple, along with like one or two others, are some of the first books that I remember reading as a kid. Um, but she has influenced so many generations, not just ours, through her writing, and portrayed Black women differently, I think, than what people would expect, which I think is was I don't know what's the most important thing about her writing and her autobiographies, but
I
that's
feel.
huge.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was thinking that, and maybe it kind of piggyback. I'm kind of piggybacking off of what was already said when we were reading over her life and accomplishments and so forth and so on. But um, I feel like she made it acceptable to talk about certain things in that era where people kind of push things under the rug. Being able to talk about being SA'd and being raped. Um, I think those some of those things were not really talked about. A
Hmm.
lot of those things was hid. If it happened, um, no one really talked about it. And I believe that she made it, I don't want to say she made it okay, but she definitely was brave in a time where things like that was not talked about, you
Well,
know.
maybe it's more for her making it okay to talk about it
Right,
because it was
right,
so right.
right. That's what I
Um,
mean.
okay. Um, because if to be frank, I want to say that's probably one of the first books, and maybe one of the first books where I ever read about something like that. And then to kind of understand that this can happen. It's quite shocking, but the fact it should be more like, I don't want to say like this is something that happens. It happens more often than we think, and the fact that nobody wants to talk about it is why predators keep doing what they do. I ain't gonna say I'm so happy they took care of his ass even after spending a day in the jail. Good for him. I love that for him. Sorry,
Oh,
but at least she had family.
unapologetic.
She had family who was like, okay, bet, and he should have made better choices. Don't take advantage of little girls, dummy. But I'm happy that her
Um,
family stood up for her and kind of.
I know this might seem like real, I don't know how this is gonna sound. Maybe a little cold-hearted, but it's two things. Um, her absorbing that and feeling like if I would have stayed quiet, that person would be alive, right?
Hmm.
Um, from me looking at that, I'm like, wow, even in that moment, even after what that person did, you're still thinking about the other person,
Mm.
you know, and that says a lot.
Hmm.
That um, even though that person did what they did, the fact that you could um feel, I don't know if it's compassion. I don't know the word that I'm looking for, but to have somebody do that to you and then still feel like, well, they would be okay if I wouldn't have said anything. So it was almost kind of like punishing herself, But also, it says that she was not just concerned about her, that she did look at, I guess, the Mr. Freeman. I don't want to call him
Mm.
Mr. Freeman, and his family and so forth and so on. Um, I felt really bad that she took on that extra guilt. They made
Mm.
that decision just like he made that decision. He should have made better choices. Maybe they could have made some better choices too, but I'm not judging because I ain't gonna tell no lie.
I mean, the
Girl,
thing is, how many people, this is not how many people, and when it comes to families, this is a different time now. So please, but would have just swept it under the rug, pretend like shit didn't happen, and not do anything. They'd be
don't
no.
say anything. Yep.
I would say retribution, but yeah, retribution. I don't know any other way to say it. Um,
A day in jail? A day in jail?
I mean, come
Oh
on.
yeah. Come on, run me
But
that.
you know what
A
that
day in
showed?
jail?
Do you know what that really showed?
I bet you if it would have been
Not even
I bet
that.
you if that would
Yes,
have been it would have been a different story. I
that,
bet
but
you it
also
would have been a
more to it than that. Like the value of what men, I don't black or white, in the eyes of the law, the value of what
mm,
men can do to women
hmm. Oh
is
yeah, it's
kind
too
of
acceptable.
right. So they found that was like I'm not putting words into their mouth, but it just seemed like a day in jail for this when you're taking advantage of the most vulnerable. So the way in the eyes of the law, how they saw it, this could happen to anybody at
Right.
time specifically. The what value they place more value in that man who did this vile thing versus this child whose life is now changed, which is kind of like mind-boggling. But I'd mm, yeah. And you know what I think was really something that kind of came to me while we were kind of going to like learning that she was like friends with Alvin Ailey and danced with him, and they had this thing, and where they were trying to do, I guess, their own dance company, but
Mhm.
together it just wasn't meant to be. But them separately, it was meant to be. Like there's this striking thing when it comes to her of the people that she's crossed paths with. And despite all those people that she's crossed paths with, this was her path. This and this alone.
Mm.
So it's kind of interesting to see, like, when her poem, when she's like, we've been paid for, but like her path was paid for. And this is her now speaking at Spelman College. And like the women that she was speaking to, your path, like, this was all paid for, and now you're here graduating from Spelman. But on the back, not the backs, but
I'm pretty sure they was thinking, no, it's not paid for yet. I got student loan.
well, I'm sure at that time, that was 1992. Those student loans ain't
I'm
what they are
joking.
now.
Sorry. I'm, I was having a petty moment. My bad. I'm sorry.
I
Um,
mean, it's a fair point. Are you still paying your student loans from 1992? You never know.
like I think I feel like she says um that statement in itself is something that me and you both have discussed as far as everyone that before us that wanted us to have the option, and I'm pretty sure some of them will probably be rolling over in their grave.
Like, girl, really?
Like, this
Really?
is what my sacrifice, this is um because I feel like they 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 fought really hard. The irony in it, I was gonna say they fought really hard to give us the choice and the option to be able to get an education and further our education in advance um as minorities, as women, of women of color. But sometimes we need a reminder And I think some of the situations that are taking place currently is that reminder. Like, hey, you wasn't taking advantage of this. And maybe you didn't even realize how important it was until you got reminded. I think a lot of the stuff currently kind of makes me be like, yo, you should probably you know, go back to school. I don't know about them student loans though.
I know someone who is still paying off student loans at least 15 years later. I kid you not. Like,
And that's what I mean. That's what I mean. I mean, they I don't know.
it's a
I
lot.
feel like I feel like um I feel like some of it still wasn't done right. And what I mean by that is I'm pretty sure when they was fighting for and speaking up for the option to get our education, the option to be treated fairly, I'm pretty sure they didn't think someone would be paying a student loan 15 years later either. I'm pretty sure they didn't imagine that.
Oh, no, I don't think anyone could have foreseen the rising cost of education because, back in the day, education didn't cost anywhere near what it is now. And I mean, it's shocking to say the least,
It's
but
ridiculous. It's
no
ridiculous.
one, no one could foresee this. But we still have the option. And despite the student loans and all that shit, there's quite a lot of Black women and Black men that are pursuing that higher education. And I could be wrong, but I feel like there's, I could be wrong. It might just be something I was hearing on the talk, was it Talk University, about how Black women are like some of the most highly educated women, more than some men.
Does that surprise you?
Absolutely not.
And then you know something else that spoke and that showed in the voting booths.
Men too, highly educated men and women. A whole class of Black doctors, men and women, graduating. Do you see that video? How powerful it was to see something like that? Beauty.
Mm.
And I think some might look at it as, well, I don't know, like, what about us? You have your opportunity and you have this opportunity, but you choose not to do anything with it. So I think that there could be, and maybe I'm wrong, please feel free to correct me, but I think that there may be other cultures looking at that and saying, well, you got a leg up because now you've got all these programs and shit like that. But that's really not it when you consider that you had a head start by a
No,
couple. You've had, yeah, they do look at it that way. That's what they say, that's why they're trying to get rid of DEI and all whatever the hell DEI, because they feel like because of those diversity rules, that's what's giving this. They feel, I'm not saying it is, they feel as if the DEI programs is what's getting people hired over someone who's less qualified. I don't know any company that's going to hire someone who's not qualified in some way, because that's opening the door for a lawsuit. So I mean,
right.
like, from that sense, like, people are looking at it now in that way, but that's not true.
But that's not the case at all. As a matter of fact, I literally I feel like that's how somebody felt about me at one time. And you
Yeah.
know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Not only that, but I tell you what's even more funny about that. Half of them women didn't know they was the benefit. They was benefiting from them DEIs. They was benefiting. They
Yeah.
were they were benefiting probably more than we were.
I mean, there's more of them. So of
Uh,
course. I mean, I'm
so
not.
I remember watching this lady absolutely crying on a social media app, and she's like, her mother kept telling her DEI, DEI, DEI. You were the DEI, fool. It was you. Now she can't. She said, hey, I was working in a predominantly male job and I was the only female most of the time. You were the DEI, boo.
I mean, duh, but whatever.
You was the
um,
diversity and inclusion. That was you, boo.
yeah, I mean, it's very, very true. I don't know. Like, I don't know quite how we landed here, but you know how we
Yeah,
be
I'm
doing.
sorry.
I think it was all relevant.
Um,
Because we were talking about Black women and men being like the most highest, currently the most highly educated. And but here's the thing, even despite her not having a formal education, her abilities, her talent still shone through because guess where a professor?
and never even had. They said that she never even finished her bachelor's, but was a
Yeah,
professor
yeah.
um in a college, and I was like, yo, that's pretty badass.
She was
And
better than a lot of people.
I bet you she don't have no student loans.
This is true.
I'm sorry. I don't know what the fuck is with me with these student loans.
I mean, because student loans are so fucking outrageous. I mean, whatever. If it's worth it, it's worth it in the end. Like, I do know someone who has, as long as I have known them, has been in some level of school down to like master's, doctorate, the whole thing. Like the whole thing. It might be theology. I could be wrong. But and our age group still doing it. Like
But
just
you know
graduated
why?
type stuff. I was like, wow, we should never be too, you're never too old to learn something new.
I agree, but you know, also, I know somebody. Well, they're deceased now, but she used to always say she was gonna forever go to school because she was never gonna have to pay them loans back.
Mm,
Because she said, I don't know how true it is, but she said as long as you're in school, they cannot mess with you about those student loans. So she was like,
yeah.
I'm gonna forever be in somebody's classroom because
Yeah.
I ain't never gonna have the money to pay that back. And I was like,
That's smart. But I think the whole
yeah,
thing, like despite the student loans, I think what I took from it is that no matter the path that she ended up exactly where she was supposed to be,
I agree.
despite this, you know? So it's actually a really powerful thing. Like she was meant to uplift people and inspire people, which is really, it's a beautiful thing. Inspiring someone with your words and even in your actions, you know?
I agree.
But we're so excited. Thank you everyone for joining us for the season finale of Oust Now Presents This Is Us. What a powerful and inspiring person to wrap this season in Maya Angelou. So if you have not and do not know any of her work, I encourage you to go find you some. Kindle, Amazon, do all the things. Read her work. You will be inspired. Yeah, thank you for joining us on this journey through history and through learning. And we are truly grateful and looking forward to continuing with this special series with you guys.
Absolutely. This project, it's near and dear to us, and we hope to, well, ain't no hope. We plan to, ain't no hope. We're going to definitely see it through and work on next season and the season after. Not forget to tune in to Oust Now Podcast and all of those episodes. And as always, time is something that you cannot get back. And so the fact that you took time out of your day and your schedule to spend it with us and Oust Now Podcast, we cannot thank you guys enough. Y'all have a awesome evening. And please do not forget, Oust Now Podcast Season 4 is coming. Don't play no games. Don't sleep. Don't sleep.